the parashas of Yaakov and Esav, the brothers. Yaakov is called Yaakov because he was holding on to the cave, the heel, the ankle of Esav. What's the significance? Esav's heel, Yaakov's heel. A person's akev is what he treads on the ground with. So a person's connection to the offer, connection to the ground, is through his akev, what he treads on the offer. So Yaakov holding Esav's akev means that Yaakov is taking away the chibur that Esav has with the offer, and he's transferring it to the chibur that Yaakov has with the offer. What does all this mean? In last week's parasha, Yitzchak was digging for be'eros, for wells, and they were being blocked up, and he was digging again, and they were being filled up. What's the message over here? The answer is, when we talk about Yaakov and Esav, let's begin with Esav. Chazal say that Esav is a hemshech, he's a continuation of the nochash, of the snake in Gan Eden. As a result that he enticed Adam to sin, the ground was cursed. Arura Hadoma, the ground was cursed. The nochash now rolls over on the Adama. But above all, Adam was cursed. Me'ofa atav el ofa toshev. Ofar, earth, symbolizes misa, death. You come from the dust, you return to the dust. It symbolizes death. And that's really what the Nachash brought into the world. He brought into the world the concept of misa in the offer. The emes is that offer has a lot of life sources to it. Has a lot of life elements to it. Offer, there's mitzvahs hatluyas ba'aretz. There's mitzvahs that we do with the offer. Offer, the earth, teaches us certain midas attributes. Hachna, bittel, that's what Eretz Yisrael is called Eretz Canaan. It teaches us hachna. Offer has a lot of life to it. Eretz Yisrael is called Eretz Achayim. The avodah of us here in this world, as always, is to take those elements that caused misa and to dig deeper and to show them the chayim that's hidden in the elements. If the offer now resembles misa, we have to show chayim in offer. We have to show that even what Esav and the Nachash brings to the level of misa, we turn it back to its shirish, to the inyan of chayim, and that's our avodah. This is really very much symbolized with the mitzvah of Parah Adumah. Because the mitzvah of Parah Adumah is that Tchis HaMesim, somebody that came in contact with death, we have to bring him back to life with the mitzvah of Parah Adumah. What do you do with the mitzvah of Parah Adumah? So you take the ash. Now ash is Efer. Efer and Offer is the same. In fact, by Parah Adumah, the pasuk says V'lokchu me'afar sreifas achatos, with an I and not with an aleph. Offer, Efer, it's the same thing. So you take the Efer, you take the Offer, you take something which is the Yisoida Offer, and you have to mix it with Maim Chayim, with water from a spring. A spring also comes from deep down in the ground. If you dig and you dig and you dig, you're prepared to go deep enough, you'll get to Maim, but that's called Maim Chayim. Spring water symbolizes that if you go deeper than the misa of Ofar, you get Chayim that comes out of Ofar. That's called Maim Chayim. What is the avodah of Parah Adumah? You take the Ofar, Efer, and you mix it with Maim Chayim, which means you bring it back, you show that even the Ofar, which represents Misa, this guy was Tomei Mace, even that we have to bring back to a deeper shirish, which is a shirish of Chayim, which is the Mayim that's called Maim Chayim, which is the spring water that's dug deep down from the ground. This symbolizes this whole idea. This is the difference really between the Ofar in Chutz La'aretz and Eretz Yisrael. As we said, Eretz Yisrael is called Eretz Achayim. There's a lot to learn from the Ofar in Eretz Yisrael. There's mitzvahs hatluyas ba'aretz. There's a lot of life that comes out of the Ofar in Eretz Yisrael. However, the Ofar in Chutz La'aretz, Chazal, Geyser decreed a tumah. It's full of bones, it's full of misa, it's full of dead bones, it's full of bodies. The Ofar in Chutz La'aretz is, in fact, the aftermath of the sin of the Nachash. And the Offer in Eretz Yisrael is an offer that really gives out life. The offer in Chutz La'aretz is the offer that's dead. And the offer in Eretz Yisrael is the offer that reveals life from deep within it. This is really Avraham Avinu and the avodah of the Avos HaKadoshim to restore and to rectify the sin of Adam. Avraham Avinu says, Anoichi offer v'efer, which means that my avodah is with offer and efer. My avodah is to take out the good attributes, the life-giving sources from offer and efer. And that's why the first kinyan that Avraham Avinu made in Eretz Yisrael was buying a burial plot from Ephraim. Ephraim is from the Lashon Offer. Ephraim is the offer of Chutz La'aretz. Ephraim, we find, is greedy for money. He takes the highest possible price from Avraham Avraham Avinu. We know that money, gold, silver, copper, it's mined from the ground. We know that money's heavy. It's interesting that a coin in Hebrew is called a matbea, because matbea means to sink. Just like the offer is of a person gravitates downwards, it brings him down, so too money, it comes from the ground, and it brings a person down to the ground. It's heavy. A person through a matbea is toivea, he sinks into the ground. Ephraim is money greedy. Ephraim is called offer. He's the offer from Chutz La'aretz. Avraham Avinu is buying a plot in Eretz Yisrael. Avraham Avinu is anochi offer ve'efer. Avraham Avinu is there to prove and to bring out, to reveal life coming from the offer, and that's in Eretz Yisrael, and that's why Dafka buys a grave. We know that Kvura in Yiddishkeit, in Judaism, resembles the idea of Tchias HaMesim. The bracha that we're going to make at Tchias HaMesim at the end of all days, says the Mishnah, then the bracha is the bracha of Hatoiv HaMeitiv, when everything's going to be seen that is good. The bracha of Hatoiv HaMeitiv that we recite today in benching was instituted when the Harugei Beita were given to be buried, where they were allowed to be buried. Kavura has to do with Hatoiv HaMeitiv. Kavura has to do with Lasid Lovay. Kavura shows on Tchias HaMesim. That's why in the bracha of Tchias HaMesim, Machayim Mesim Atar Rav Leishia, we say, O Mekayim Emunose Lishenei Offer. The Ovos HaKadoshim is sleeping in the offer. So Avraham Avinu is burying Sarah. That's the sign of Tchias HaMesim. Avraham Avinu buys a plot in Arz Zachayim, and he buys a plot that shows on Tchias HaMesim, and he buys it from Ephraim. Ephraim must be pushed. His offer belongs to the Chutz La'aretz. Avraham Avinu is showing what offer in Eretz Yisrael is. Avraham Avinu has to be megala the chayim, the good elements of anochi offer ve'efer, what we learn from offer, what we can derive, the attributes that we can learn from connecting to the idea of the offer. That's the offer of the goyim and the offer of Am Yisrael. Yitzchak Avinu is the same thing. We talk about the ash, we talk about the Efer, Afaroi shel Yitzchak Avinu. The Afaroi of Yitzchak Avinu is our life source for all these generations. It's the Akedas Yitzchak, the Afaroi of Yitzchak Avinu that keeps us alive, that keeps us going, that is our kiyum, our continuity forevermore is the Afaroi shel Yitzchak. The Efer, Offer, the ashes from the Akedas Yitzchak Avinu. This idea came to a climax with Yaakov Avinu, where Bilam HaRasha says, Mi mono afar Yaakov, the earth of Yaakov. Says Rashi, what's Bilam referring to? Says Rashi, it's referring to the mitzvahs that we perform with the offer. So Yaakov Avinu is Mi mono afar Yaakov. Yaakov Avinu is Megalet, the Chaim, the Nitzchias, the eternity, the mitzvahs that we bring out from offer. If you reveal Chaim out of offer, you've revealed Tchias HaMesim. And that's why Bilam HaRasha, Taka ends the pasuk, Mi monar afar Yaakov, he ends the pasuk, Vatehi achrisi kamoyu. He wants the achris, he wants the Tchias HaMesim. Because Mi monar afar Yaakov symbolizes Tchias HaMesim. If you can find mitzvahs in offer, if you can find life-giving sources in offer, then you've just brought about Tchias HaMesim, which is what our avodah is. The Nachash is offer for Misa. We are offer for life. The Beis HaMikdash is a form of Tchias HaMesim. We discussed many times. Because really, the Yerushalmi says in Makkos that a sinner should really die. The fact that he can come to the Beis HaMikdash and bring a korban and atone is bringing him back to life. Which means that the Beis HaMikdash is also taking the offer and bringing it back to life. Taking what was Misa and finding life. And that's why it's so beautiful, it's so ironic, that the first mitzvah that they did, the first avodah that was done in the morning, was called Trumas Hadeshen. Trumas Hadeshen, lifting up the ash, the burnt out ash. And this was the avodah that they raced up the ramp. And this was the avodah they got up in the middle of the night. To be zoicha to the avodah of what? Of Trumas Hadeshen, meaning lifting up the afer, lifting up the ash. Usually ash off of an afer gravitates downwards, I would say. And here this is Trumas Hadeshen. On the contrary, when you're dealing with Tchias HaMesim, you're dealing with getting up, not getting down. That's why also, after Avraham buried Sarah in Aram Aras Machpelah, the pasuk says, "Vayakom asada tkumu hoisaloi." On the contrary, you just load it into the ground. You go back, you gravitate down eventually into the ground. But here it has a kima. It's the same thing. Truma means to lift up. All the mitzvahs that we do in Eretz Yisrael with the land, truma, they're called truma. Truma, you give truma. Truma means to lift up. We're lifting up the earth. We're taking the earth from an element of death that was decreed upon it, that everything's going to gravitate back down into the earth, and we're making it into a truma. On the contrary, we're bringing it up. We're bringing Chaim up from the Adama. That's the avodah of Trumas Hadeshin that was done in the Mishkan. That's the introductory daily avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, because that is what the Beis Hamikdash symbolizes: finding life in a makam of Misa. That's why the Chanukas Abayis, the Chanukah of the Beis Hamikdash, the first Beis Hamikdash, is the parak in Tehillim is the parak of Mizmor Shir Chanukas Abayis LeDavid, and there we say, Hashem Elisa min Sheol Nafshi. Chisani miyor dibor, coming up from the bar, coming up. Hayoitcha ofar ayagid amitecha. In other words, the Chanukas Abayis is the Chanukas Abayis, and Hashem is taking us out of offer. What does the Beis Hamikdash do? It takes us out of offer. It takes us out of the sheol. It takes us out of the bar. Our avodah is an avodah to dig deeper and to find life everywhere. Hashem is the Makor HaChaim, and everything has a Makor HaChaim in it. We're living through the era of Mashiach ben Yosef. Yosef Tzaddik was lowered into the bar. He was lowered into the offer. He wasn't buried in the offer, but he was lowered into the offer more than once. And he kept on coming out of the offer, lowered again into a bar, and coming out of the offer. Yosef Tzaddik symbolized this idea that we have to find Chaim, even in places that seem lifeless. We have to find Chaim. That's the avoid of the Ikus of the Mashiach. This is the difference between Yaakov and Esav. This is the offer that Yaakov treads on. Mi monar afa Yaakov. Esav is the hemshech of the Nochash. His offer is an offer of Misa, as he said there at that Suda. Yaakov, the first dialogue between Yaakov and Esav was when Avraham Avinu was nostalgic, passed away, and this was the Sudas Havrah, the Suda of the Avelim. And when Esav said that, Hine Anochi Hoylech Lomus, and Chazal said he denied Tchias HaMesim. Mamish over there. He denies Tchias HaMesim. He says, Hine Anochi Hoylech Lomus. Every person eventually is going to go back into the offer. Hine Anochi Hoylech Lomus. V'lomas Eli B'chora. B'chor is Gematria Eitz Chaim. I'm not going into this now, but there's pages and pages of the idea of offer has to do with of B'chor has to do with Tchias HaMesim, not for now. But I call upon him. This explains the whole story. This explains why Yitzchak Avinu is digging and digging, because the avoid of the Avos HaKadoshim is to dig through the Misa of offer and to bring out Chaim, to bring out a spring, to bring out Mayim Chaim. And Yitzchak Avinu is to bring out Mayim Chaim deep, deep from within the offer. That's our avoida. And this is our avoida. Kadosh Baruch Hu should help us, and we should be Zarchem Etz Hashem to the Yom Shekul Shabbos and Menucha L'Chaya Elom Im Herab Yomeinu Amen. I got Erev Shabbos.